Hello, all, and welcome to the fifth episode of the OutCast podcast, where today we will be talking about the presidential debate between Trump, Harris, and the two moderators in a classic Dark Souls gank session. I'm Jared, joined with my other co hosts, Aaron
What's going on?
and Dale.
I am here for the fight.
So let's get into it. I think we should probably start off uh, this episode by talking about what our overall views of the entire debate was, how we thought each candidate did for themselves as well as in the debate overall against each other. I guess I'll go first. So my opinion of this debate is that it was a stalemate. Some people are saying that Kamala won, and others are saying that Kamala didn't really win, but Trump didn't really win it either. I think it was split up into three aspects. One, I think Trump won on policy because that's what all the voters cared about. Trump was hitting all those subjects, and I feel like he has the trust of the American people on economics, on immigration, on abortion now, actually. And Trump also won on visuals. If you watch the debate without any sound on, which is typically how you tell who's winning versus who's losing a debate, Trump was very stoic, he was very composed, whereas Kamala kept making a whole lot of faces. She had her hands waving everywhere. She wasn't as composed and stoic as Trump was in the debate. However, in terms of actual what they were talking about, I believe Harris won that sort of the debate when talking about what their goals were. Harris's goal wasn't to win the debate. Her goal wasn't to uh, give any new information to the voters. Her goal was to keep her positions as obscure as possible and make the entire debate about Donald Trump and his administration, not the fact that there are problems going on right now because of her and Biden's administration. So that's my opinion of the debate.
Well, I guess I'll go second. I actually disagree a little bit. So, watching the debate, you got done with it as someone who's going to vote for Trump, right? Wanting Trump to win this debate. I came out of the debate, just a couple minutes after. I was very upset because I felt like, it was a 3-on-1 match, right? But at the same time, I felt like Trump didn't do a good enough job pressing Harris to the issues. But then, today I was looking at it and I looked at a whole bunch of different reports. And the first thing I did, this morning was I was like, okay, I'm going to look at my news app. I use Ground News because it gives you like 100 different sources for every single thing. So you can see what the left leaning, the right leaning, and the middle is. And I was like, all right, I'm going to see a whole bunch of stories about how Trump did horrible, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready for it. Go scroll through the thing, and there's like nothing. There's like, Trump doesn't say he's going to veto an abortion ban. Like, okay, that's not really a big deal. It's like, and it goes down a little farther, and it's just the little things. It's like Trump talks about people eating animals. It's like, okay, but then I look through and I'm seeing these even liberal media things about Kamala Harris still lacks a few answers here and there, kind of thing. And I'm seeing all these other stories coming out that are just like, Harris didn't answer the question. Harris didn't answer the question. And then I looked back at the debate again today, and what I saw was what people really wanted from Trump. Like, for instance, all the extremely good debaters wanted from Trump is for Trump to basically ignore the question that the media asked and basically give his own question back to Kamala Harris and to the media. What Trump did was he answered the questions that were asked of him, and then he pointed it back at Kamala Harris. That's what he tried to do. And in a lot of it, he was successful. I see, for instance, they're trying to talk about Afghanistan and national security. They talk about national security, and then Kamala Harris is like, Donald Trump met with the Taliban and to try to fenestrate him, to try to criticize him for meeting and making a deal with the Taliban during his time as presidency. Well, President Trump turns around and he's like, wait, I have to respond to that. And the media let him respond, and he tells the story that we were having military members killed every single week, or they were being killed by snipers from the Taliban. And so he met with the leaders of the Taliban and forced them to stop. He said, "You can't do it anymore." And the leader was like, "Why did you send me? Why are you showing me a picture of my house?" And Trump's like, "You're gonna have to figure that one out. Don't shoot them anymore." And they didn't have anyone else killed for 18 months. And it's those kind of things. If you look back, Trump made attacks and pinned Harris to Biden and to their failed economic policy, their failed foreign policy, and he pinned her with her personal failures. And he did a fairly good job of it, and he fact checked the media. The problem was the media is on top of Trump, and they're like, for instance, Trump says that there are states that have a 9 month that allow abortions in the 9th month, and the media goes, "Oh, actually, no, there's no state that allows abortions up to the 9th month."
I
That's a
wouldn't
false
just
statement.
say the word media. It was the
Moderators.
specifically it was the moderators,
Yes, I
which it's not
apologize.
the moderators' jobs to play fact checker during a debate. It's the
Exactly, and
moderators' jobs to make sure times are kept and answers are, kept within a certain parameter to where it's not overtly disrespectful.
you want to look at a
That's their
good debate.
job.
You want to look at a
But
good
yeah,
moderating.
they were playing fact checker.
Yeah, you want to look at a good moderation job. Look at the debate between Joe Biden and President Trump. CNN did a very good job of moderating. They didn't get in the way. They didn't try to fact check all the candidates. They just asked their questions and let them respond. And ABC did not do that. For instance, like I was saying with the abortion, they say, "Oh no, no state allows that." Well, first of all, that's a lie because there are, I believe, 6 or 7 states that have
Eight eight
no 8 states. Sorry, they have eight. There are 8 states that do not have any restrictions on abortion. Therefore, abortion is allowed up to the 9th month. And in some states, like in Minnesota, who has Governor Walz, the law he passed says the state's not going to adhere to the Born Alive Act, which says if a infant is born alive after a failed abortion and the infant is alive, the infant's life is not going to be protected. And there have been 8 babies that have died in Minnesota since he has put that law in that have
And
died
by not
after
taking
failed
care of
abortions.
babies, by not taking care of babies, that is murder.
Yes,
If
and
you
that's
actively choose to let them die, that's murder.
That's
exactly.
actually what we know of, or I guess what's officially reported. So I've
There's
been
probably
actually
more.
doing a lot of research specifically on that. And I found multiple like comments from people who actually work in like the healthcare industry and things. One comment that I saw by a viewer that was when they were discussing this one viewer said, I've worked in healthcare for 15 years and at several hospitals. Coworkers and I have been on the receiving end of multiple times a baby who was born alive after abortion. And she said she wished she was joking about that. She says, we're not allowed to do anything for the babies at all, even when they could be saved. That is as good as killing a baby in my book because we just watch them die. Any neonatal ICU unit in a blue state can tell you that this happens many times a year. So it's not just these states that are outwardly saying it. This person who works in the health industry is saying, "Hey, if you look at any of these in blue states, this is happening. It might not be reported, but it's happening, and they're not allowed to touch the child.
Evil.
Yeah,
They
it's
can get in
ridiculous.
legal trouble, which is absolutely insane."
Right.
Um,
One of the other things that I saw, and my point with this was there is a tracker. These people that did I believe it was Fox News, that did an impact of the presidential debate on actual voters in real time. And there's a graph, we'll include it in the description box below, where it shows the Republican, Independent, and Democrat how they responded to the talking points as the debate was going on. You can see their engagement and if they were positive, positive, positive. I don't know exactly how they set up the test for them to like basically tap it if they're engaged or tap it if they're not engaged, I guess. But it shows clearly that during Kamala Harris talking, independents and Republicans drop off way more than when Trump's talking, Democrats drop off. Democrats drop off and they stay at the same point and they're like halfway in the negative. Versus when Kamala Harris is talking and she's outright lying, because that's what she did most of the time, the Republicans and independents, which are the ones who are going to decide the election, the independents, are way lower. They're full negative when she is talking about this because
Yeah.
they know what she's saying is a lie.
And that's a great point to just show how Trump is actually resonating with independents, not Kamala. Aaron, what was your take on this debate?
Have any of you guys ever seen that JoJo's meme where that one guy starts kicking the guy and then the other guys at the table get up and just start kicking the guy too? That's what the debate
Yes.
felt like to me. Watching it, it wasn't Trump v. Kamala. It was Trump v. Kamala and the two moderators. I mean, the favoritism that was shown in the debate. I mean, we're talking about moderators interrupting Trump mid-speech to quote unquote fact check him. Some of the fact checks were actually incorrect as well, and we'll get through some of those. I went through and decided that I was going to go through basically every lie that I saw and mark it down so that I could have the facts on this situation as well. We'll go through some of those, but they gave her softball questions, right? So like one of the examples is they asked Trump about the Israel Palestine, battle and war going down there. And of course, that's extremely important, right? We want to know what our presidential candidates think of this and how they're planning on handling it and what their plans are. But instead of asking Kamala the same question, which a fair moderation team would have done, they asked her, "So he said you hate Israel. Is that true?" And I just sat there and I was like, "What? What is that? Like, what kind of question is that?" Like, I don't understand why they're gonna ask him like this really intense question about how he's gonna handle a current conflict in the world. And then they're just gonna ask her, "Well, he said that you hate these people. Is that true?" Like that's just not a fair question. The entire time was just them pandering to her. They didn't fact check her, even though she directly lied multiple times. And they interrupted Trump. Their questions were almost like they were coddling her, right? I think Ben Shapiro posted something on Twitter where it was like, Trump, are you evil? Explain.
Hmm.
Trump explains. Moderators to Kamala. Trump is evil, don't you think? Like
He
that's the
straight up
kind of
did that.
questions. Yeah, like isn't that crazy? Like it's that those kind of questions are not what I'm looking for when I'm looking for, a presidential debate. Whether I like Kamala or not, whether I agree with her position, I still expect somebody who's running as a United States president to take it seriously, to have themselves educated on the main issues that we have today, and to have the availability to give the answer that I need and the competency to not have to be coddled by moderators in the debate. It
Well,
was terrible.
let's talk about some of those questions. Uh, I've got a whole list of them right here, and I'll just run through those. Just so you can see how adversarial they were towards Trump. So the second question was aimed toward Trump, and they were asking him how Americans can afford higher prices from his tariffs that he plans on implementing. Yet they weren't asking Kamala to be held accountable for the higher prices that Americans are suffering under inflation right now. They only asked Harris in the first question, are Americans better off than they were 4 years ago? Which they allowed her to get away without answering that question. She just rambled on about her policy plans and how Trump doesn't know how to run the economy. Then the third question, they asked Trump a question that Harris had posed of why Trump has changed his stance on abortion and why he should be trusted by women. The next question was aimed toward Harris, and they asked why did the Biden Harris administration wait until just before the election to uh, present executive orders on the border, and would Harris do anything different than Biden? So that's really a softball question considering the high issue of the border. Then we go to question 5. They asked Trump of how he would deport 11 million immigrants, which he says there are more, but they're asking him how he would do it. Then we go to the next question, where this one is very adversarial. They ask Trump, is there anything Trump regrets about what he did during January 6th? And yet they had a similar question where they asked Harris about the Afghanistan debacle. Yet listen to the difference. They asked Harris if she bears any responsibility for Afghanistan. Even though she's already claimed responsibility, she says that she agreed with all of the policies that Biden had went through to pull the troops out of Afghanistan. But the difference of asking Trump, do you regret your actions, versus Harris, do you even have any responsibility for this? The line of questioning that they targeted Trump with was absolutely terrible.
Oh yeah, and in a lot of in a lot of examples of those, the questions were really framed to make him look as bad as possible too. They weren't necessarily really looking for a real answer in his plan. They were kind of there to bait him into saying something that Kamala can then go after him for in her response.
Trump, have you stopped beating your wife? That's basically the questions they were asking.
Yeah, it's
Like, it's a catch-22
absolutely crazy.
with how he would answer. And then the moderators pressed him 3 times on a question. They're asking for a response, and yet they pressed Harris on responses to questions that she didn't answer 0 times.
Yeah, it's just you see the difference, right? You see the obvious bias. And if one thing's for sure, anyone who watched the debate should have been able to tell that the media was absolutely that the moderators were absolutely compliant with the Kamala Harris campaign. They were in it together.
In her pocket.
Yeah, they were giving her a foot massage basically the entire time, and you could really see that when, once again, we're talking about the Israel question. They asked Trump, "Okay, is there a way that you would actually, how would you take care of the Israel Gaza war?" And then he says what he's going to do. And during that response, Trump says, because and Kamala Harris, she hates Israel. She didn't even meet with Netanyahu when he had a speech. She went to a sorority party, which is a true fact. Netanyahu
Yep.
came a few weeks ago, and she did not show up to his speech in the House of Representatives, which she is supposed to be at. And so he said that she hates Israel, and that's proof. The moderator switched the question. And your response, Harris, he says that you hate Israel. Do you? Like,
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's such a crazy question. I was
everybody can see
laughing
that.
when I saw that come up. It was so stupid.
Everyone who watches it, even the liberals, need to be. I hope that they at least have enough brain cells to see that.
Oh
Because
no, it's I like
They
one
do. They
thing I
do.
want
They
to state.
approve of
Yeah,
it.
like yes, these people are liberals, but a lot of these people too. If okay, so if you go to see or MSNBC's YouTube channel, they have a video titled "She Ate Him for Lunch." Donald Trump rattled by VP Harris, and they even say Harris dominates in presidential debate as Trump says he's less inclined to debate again. Trump is less inclined to debate again because of how one-sided it was and how terrible the favoritism was, not because of how great Kamala is. But if you read the comments, there's 32,000 comments, and almost all of them, not every single one, but I want to say 90% are people just trashing MSNBC on this. People are crazy disappointed in how biased the entire thing was. People are calling out the shameful performance of the moderators. You know, this is MSNBC, right? This isn't done by like it's not a bunch of Republicans hopping on there and commenting on this. There's a lot of independents that watch and a lot of Democrats that watch MSNBC, and they're commenting how shameful it was. Like this was so blatant that a lot of people are seeing this and going, "Whoa, that's messed up."
So, Aaron, you brought up a secondary debate. Do you think, one, do you think that there will be a second debate? And two, do you think it's in either party's political interests to do a second debate?
So that's a layered question. Um, let me put it this way, right? I don't think Kamala's going to do a second debate. I will be surprised if she does. Do I think it would be good for us as Americans to see a second debate? Absolutely. I think there should be at least 3. But with the way she's running away, I don't think we'll see that.
Mm.
But do I think it's in Trump's best interest to debate her if it's going to continue to be like this? I do not. And here's why. Most of you have siblings or have grown up with siblings. When you have somebody you're trying to talk to, and it's so clear that they're not going to give you the respect or the time of day, do you continue talking to them, or eventually do you just stop, end the conversation because it's not worth it? With my little brother, when he's not listening to me and I'm trying to communicate with him and actually discuss something, If he's not giving me the attention of day, he's interrupting me and he's causing problems and he's bringing up little things, I will end the conversation, because at that point, it's no longer worth me actually trying to express my viewpoints to him and have this like conversation and debate, because he's not listening. I think it's the same thing for Trump, but not in the way of, oh, he doesn't want to debate his points, right? I think it's the fact that if he signs up for these debates, they are so one-sided towards Kamala that he doesn't get the proper questioning or the proper time and courtesy to explain what he actually believes, what his plan is, without being attacked. And I don't think it's worth his time if that's the game that the media is going to play. I think if they will sit down and they will actually give a real interview where the moderators stay out of it and it's him and Kamala having the exact same questions that must be answered, then yes, we should have a second one. But if they're not, no, it's a complete waste of time. That's my opinion on the matter.
So I think it really depends on Kamala. If she comes out of this debate with the feeling that she won and that media is hyping her up, I think she actually might make a tactical mistake and just overestimate where she is. And she might actually take the bait and go for a second debate, and just, which is, in my opinion, not politically in her interest. The media is saying that Kamala won the debate and she's already asking for a second debate. Trump is more dubious on whether or not he would want to have a second debate. I personally think it is in Trump's political interests to have a second debate, depending on if he's able to change his strategy. So, like you were saying, they're not giving Trump the time of day. Trump should not be focusing his answers, his messaging towards the debate. He should be focusing his messaging and answers toward the American people in general. He should be going into these debates, if it's something like ABC on a network that is obviously adversarial towards Trump. He should be going in preparing to not attack the moderators, but pretty much throw them out of the way to get to Kamala. Uh, when Trump was talking about the immigrants eating animals in Springville, I think it's Springville,
Ohio,
the
yeah, the Haitians.
yeah, the moderators cut him off and they're like, "Oh, that's not happening." He battled with the moderators. He was saying, "Well, we're not going based off of that report. I'm going based off of what people have seen." When they cut him off and said that the FBI was saying that crime has gone down, he stopped and jousted with moderators, saying the FBI left out data from all these other places.
The
When
worst
the
cities.
moderators from the cities, when the moderators cut him off and or didn't cut him off, but at the end when he was talking about abortion, said, "Oh, there's no state that allows abortion after birth, which is infanticide." He should have realized that the moderators were poised against him. He should have gone after the moderators and forced them to actually defend what they're saying in fact checking Trump, but not Kamala. He should have thrown them out of the way to throw the issue back at Kamala. And I think if Trump can do that, a second debate would be in his interests, just to get more light on Kamala. The more people see of Kamala, the less they like of her. But if he can't do that, no, I agree. He should stay out of debates. Dale, your opinion?
For the first part, will Kamala Harris do another debate? I think yes. And that's just because immediately afterwards, and today, it's come out reports from her campaign saying that they want to do a second debate. Fox News has come out and said that they'll do the debate. We have not heard back from the Trump campaign yet, but as far as that's concerned, it looks like she wants to do another debate. So if Trump agrees, there will be. Do I think that Trump should do a debate? I think so. I think that Trump should do a debate. I don't think that this debate was damaging to Trump. Looking at facts, looking online, looking at what people are saying about it, I don't think that this debate hurt Trump. In fact, I think it helped Trump because there are a lot of moments that are being clipped and can be clipped from this where it shows Trump's points poignantly. One thing that people hate about Trump is that, or debate-wise, is that he rambles a lot when he's answering, and it does get on your nerves when you're in the moment watching it. But at the same time, he makes 5 different points in the same in the same statement. He talks about 5 different things, gives 5 different points about it. Now, should he have been in the debate? Should he have held the moderators to the fire more? I think maybe. The problem with that is, how do you, what are the words you want him to say? He's done it before, right? He's fought the moderators before, and it hasn't worked out, and everyone was like, why is he arguing with the moderators? He needs to be quiet. He needs to stop acting deranged and talking back to the moderators. So when he doesn't do it, except for in key times where it's 100% wrong, and he can 100% prove it on the spot, like for the crime wave, like he's like, when he said that crime has gone up under Biden, and they're like, oh, actually, FBI's reported that crime's gone down. He goes, no, they didn't include the 3 worst cities in America, which have gone up. So it was a false report, just like her false report with the jobs.
Yeah.
Well, I was first just gonna wrap up my thought about whether there will be a second debate. Personally, I think there will be, just because I think Kamala Harris is pushing for it now, and I think Donald Trump will end up doing it because he knows that she's full of it at this point. Does he need to change his strategy? I think so. I think he needs to be more poignant and basically connect the dots faster, and not go to maybe 7 different points during his rambling, but like 3, and then point it back to her. It's like, why aren't you? And basically his closing statement, which was brilliant, he should make that a part of every one of his answers, and then he'll do way better. But as far as things to talk about,
Look, bringing up the crime, right? They stopped reporting a lot of the crime statistics during the Kamala Biden
of
term.
course,
They've stopped reporting a lot of them, and a lot of that is due to the change of criteria that is now required for them to report it as a crime. Many things that were a crime under President Trump are now classified as misdemeanors, or just things that they're not even going to touch. Take California, for example. People who are stealing, hundreds of dollars of merchandise, as long as they don't go over a certain amount of the merchandise stolen, the police are literally sitting there watching them just run out with this stuff, and they can't arrest them. They literally can't do anything for them because it's under a certain dollar value. I think, what is it, like $950 or
yeah,
something?
$950.
Yeah, it's under $950 of merchandise. So they can't arrest these people. So you have things that would have been a crime 4 years ago that are no longer a crime. So of course statistics have dropped, and they're showing lower rates. It's the same thing. It's the way they're manipulating statistics. It's the same thing that they're doing with inflation, right? People are like, oh, Trump was 7% inflation. Biden and Harris is like 2.5%. Trump was 7% total. Biden and Harris are 2% on the average rise, which is 2 completely different percentages, and it means 2 completely different things. Total Trump, or total Biden Harris, is like 20 something percent. It's
Right.
a whole nother monster. And one thing we were talking about earlier too, kind of going to the voters. The voters aren't stupid when it comes to like the lies and this kind of stuff, because people live. You have to live. You have to make do. You have to pay for food. You have to have a house. So even if Kamala is saying, things are good, or that, oh, she's going to fix it, people recognize this stuff. There was, CNN did a undecided voters in Pennsylvania interview after the debate. And this lady got up and she said, this is a presidential election. We're looking for the next president, not who's going to be a cool person at your next bridal party. She said, and we're in a very unique time where both candidates have actually already run the country. So we can kind of directly compare how they run and how their policies work. She goes, facts to facts, life was better under Donald Trump. She says Kamala keeps saying that she's going to fix the problems that her
Administration.
have caused. And the lady's direct quote is, I don't know if I can afford to take that risk. These are undecided voters in Pennsylvania. That's huge to hear coming from people interviewed on CNN, of all places. Straight up saying, hey, look, I know you guys are forcing Kamala and that she's joy and all this stuff, but I'm looking for somebody who's a leader And we've lived under both of these people, and Trump, it was better. I can't take the risk with Kamala that she's going to fix things because she's already shown us with her current administration that she can't. And Trump kept bringing this up a lot, is she's already in control. Why doesn't she go down to the White House and call Biden, get all this stuff taken care of and pass it tonight? She won't do it because she doesn't plan on doing any of this.
Right.
Yeah, she's just lying.
Yeah. And she told a lot of lies that the
lot.
moderators didn't go in through. Just in my notes right here, I have, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, what,
Why don't you just hit them
11
off
or
real quick
12?
for us?
Hit them off. Okay, so late term abortion. They interrupted Trump in the middle of the late term abortion and said that, oh no, you can't get that. That's false. 8 states can. Not only that, but in 2019, Virginia tried to pass a late abortion law to where if children are born during an abortion that they don't have to be saved. And Tim Walz actually repealed a bill that would save children if they were born during a botched abortion. He actually got rid of that, and we've already discussed that part just a bit. And then we have the very fine people, right? They love to bring up the Charlottesville very fine people quote, stating that Trump said neo-Nazis and racists were very fine people. That's already been debunked. That was debunked by Snopes, even. And they've already said no. He was talking about people who were in the Confederacy, which, if you read history, yes, there actually were some very upright people that were fought in the Confederacy. Not everything that happened in the Civil War was based on slavery, right? They were fighting for other things too. Sure, you could have been on the wrong side, but that doesn't mean that there weren't fine people. It's already been debunked multiple times. The moderators let Kamala just say it, and they didn't check her on it at all.
Let me
January
just
6th.
bring this up
Oh, go ahead.
about the very fine people. Biden used that against him in the last debate, and he smoked him over that. Kamala was saying that Trump just has the same old playbook, that he reuses the thing. Kamala is the exact same as Biden, and they're letting her do exactly the same. But
Oh, yeah.
continue on.
Yeah, so we have January 6th. She said that January 6th was one of the worst, I forget what it was that the word she used, but basically the worst thing since the Civil War. She had the audacity to say that on the eve of 9/11. How many people were killed in January 6th? Oh, wait, that's right. It was instigated by FBI agents. Most people know that. People didn't die. She said that on the eve of 9/11, had the audacity to say it's the worst thing that's hit our country since the Civil War.
There was only one person that died on January 6th,
Yeah.
and it was a
Okay.
rally
Yeah.
goer.
One versus 2,000+ that died
Right. Right.
on
And it
September
was
11th,
mostly color.
2001. She says that on the eve of 9/11. She's a fool. And the media always loves to go back to January 6th like it was this huge thing. It was very little. Trust me. If the people really wanted to overthrow the government, it would be done in a night, and there would be nothing the government would be able to do over it. That's just the facts. That's history. That's how things actually work. If you don't believe me, ask the French. They've done it a few times. They're kind of professionals at it. Next, the bloodbath quote. She tried to say that Donald Trump's quote when he said it would be a bloodbath was going to be, if he didn't get elected, there was going to be war in this country. When in reality, for that quote, he was talking directly about the automotive industry and talking about how if he doesn't get elected, the automotive industry will be a bloodbath because Mexico and China are creating all these factories to produce vehicles, and they will bring them in here. And Trump was talking about giving a huge tax and tariff on them so that it would give our automotive industry a chance to generate jobs to manufacture vehicles. He was not talking about not winning the election. He's talking about the automotive industry when he said bloodbath. The next one was crime data. We kind of touched that one already. They stopped reporting crime, and they changed the parameters of what they considered to be a crime. So, of course, the numbers look smaller. Border security, she tried to blame everything that was going wrong in the border on Trump, when in reality, the border was in a way better place than it has been under Biden and Harris. And I even saw a clip. You can Google it or YouTube it if you want. You can find the exact speech of when Joe Biden actually put Harris over the border because she refuses to say she wasn't the border czar when we know she was. Another one they like to hit home, Project 2025. They love to hit Project 2025 and say, oh, Trump is doing Project 2025. Trump did not come up with Project 2025. He himself has even said he hasn't read most of it. Project 2025 actually came from the Heritage Foundation. They're a conservative think tank group, and that's what they came up with. And yeah, some of them were on Trump's council, but that's not the same thing as being his, his criteria that he's running on. He's not running on the platform at all. He even said that he hasn't read through all of it, and so he doesn't want to even acknowledge it because he doesn't know everything that's in it,
He
which
also
is
said
respectable.
he also said on the debate stage. On the stage, he said, I'm not running on 2025. 2025 has nothing to do with me. And he denounced it completely.
Exactly.
And yet,
Yeah.
they brought it up 3 more
He's not.
times.
Yeah. And he hasn't just done that once. He's done that multiple times and said he has nothing to do with it. Fracking. She said that she never said she was going to ban fracking. You can look on YouTube and find clips all over the internet where she said she was going to ban fracking. She was on an interview with some TV host, and she said that, and the crowd went wild. And so, this stuff she lies about all the time. She lied about saying that she doesn't want to take guns away. She said she's a gun owner and she doesn't want to take guns away. When just 2 days prior, a tweet from her account came saying that she wants mandatory gun buybacks. Not only that, but there was a 2019 Bloomberg article that was entitled Kamala Harris supports mandatory buyback of assault weapons. So there's multiple things proving that she wants to do buybacks. Now, mandatory buyback is the same thing as a confiscation. You don't have a choice. They're taking it away from you. They're just going to give you a little bit of money to appease you. It's the exact same thing. Then she lied about Afghanistan, tried to blame that on Trump again. She lied about defund the police. She stated, "Oh, I've never, wanted to defund the police." Her Twitter said in 2020, "We have to redirect resources from the police." She specifically stated that she has to do that. ABC News actually has an article on that specific tweet. If you don't believe me, you can look it up yourself. And then the Haitian migrants, right? Trump tried to bring up Haitian migrants and he got fact check on that. They said, oh, that's not really happening. Well, actually, there have been multiple videos now. There's been police reports filed. I watched a video last night of police body cam footage. These police arrested a Haitian migrant who was eating a lady's cat in the street. So yeah, no, this stuff is actually happening. There's even police audio. If you can look for a article by the Federalist, where they even have police audio that was recorded by this. Then Trump said that she supports sex changes for illegal immigrants. They laughed at him and said he was crazy. Oh yeah, CNN article. Harris told ACLU in 2019 she supports cutting funds to ICE and providing transition surgery to detained migrants. These are all things that we have direct articles by Democrats themselves, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, that are all going against all the lies that she told, which is absolutely crazy that they're not fact checking her. That's what was making me so mad with the favoritism is they're going to interrupt him multiple times, which isn't their job as moderators, but then they let her go on all of these lies when there are articles that took me less than five minutes to pull up. It's ridiculous. Those are some most of the lies that I caught. There's probably some more, but those are the ones that really kind of I was like, well, actually, I know about this one. Well, actually, I know about that. Like things that I didn't even have to research. And everything she said felt scripted. She felt like she was lying. This whole debate can be described 2 words, or I guess 2 ways, right? Real versus fake. That's how it feels to me, right? Donald Trump is real. When he's giving his speeches, when he's talking about what he wants to do, he is genuine in what he thinks. He tells you what's actually happening and what to expect. Everything from Kamala is fake. She lies. It's scripted. She has to have moderators on her side. She changes her viewpoints, which is extremely dangerous. You want a presidential candidate who can't even keep her own points, like, altogether? She doesn't.
Talk about being insincere. I mean, there were multiple times in the debate, just watching it, Kamala Harris would be talking, and you can actually see her looking down, and it's almost like she's reading a script and she's reciting it from memory what she is saying. She has already planned out exactly what she's going to say. She's just a machine. But
Yeah.
this is talking about the debate. We've talked about our overall feel of it, the moderators being so inappropriately biased. We talked about Kamala Harris lying versus how they treated Trump when they falsely fact checked him. Let's get into the meat and bones of the actual debate. So, are there any topics that you, Aaron or Dale, want to specifically cover that were touched on by Harris or Trump?
To be straightforward, do I agree with everything that Donald Trump agrees with? I absolutely do not. Do I agree with most? I do. That's my political, orientation. That's where I kind of stand on that stuff. Do I agree with the fact that he thinks there should be exceptions for abortions? I don't. I think any kind of abortion is murder. If you don't like that, I mean, you can think it, you'll be wrong. But I don't agree with that. I don't agree with some of his stances on firearm owner rights and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, even if you don't know what you're hearing and what you're, talking about, Trump's answers are much more stable than Kamala's, right? Like Jared was saying, Kamala really felt like she was speaking from a script. Like she there was no personality in what she was saying, and the hands. Oh, don't even get me started on the hands. They were driving me insane. They would go up and just wave around. Like she's like, I don't even know how to say it. She's trying to jog her own memory on things. It was so bad.
She's trying to make up sign language to
Yeah.
distract from the fact that she can't speak
Mm-hmm.
English.
It was, there was at one point, I'm trying to
Actually, I
remember.
do want to touch on that.
Oh, go ahead.
They did ask, speaking of how Trump, you get what he says, and Harris, you really don't know what she's even saying. So they had asked Trump about why should women trust you when it comes to their health because you've changed your stance on abortion. He hasn't. He sent Roe v. Wade back to the states, and the states are now deciding how they want abortion to be limited in each state by the vote of the people. And he said in this state, it's more liberal than you would have thought. And Kamala Harris later on she was talking about and she was saying the states are already voting on abortion and they're voting for freedom. Like she's proving Trump's own point. It went back to the states and it's exactly where that specific state wants it to be. But Kamala Harris was asked about why her policies have changed. She specifically said her values have not changed, and Trump should have hammered her right there when he got his turn to speak. If your values have not changed and your policies have, were you lying then or are you lying now? Because there's no way that those two things are consistent. But when she was asked that question, she rambled. She said that she made it clear that she wouldn't ban fracking in 2020, which she never did. That was Biden's position. He cast the tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, then that's when Trump actually pressed Kamala on abortion being late term, and she didn't answer. Or sorry, but she said she would invest in diverse energy sources. She said her mom was bought a home when she was a teenager. Like these have nothing to do with the question of why have your stances changed. And Trump should have nailed her right then and there. The reason why Kamala Harris's stances have changed is exactly what I had said prior. She is DEI, the new DEI face of Bidenomics. She has to change away from Biden. Biden is so unpopular. And yet, she cannot dissociate from Biden. Trump even said it himself. He called her after the 12th question that Harris is Biden. Harris made this nonsensical thing of saying, I'm not Biden, but I'm also not Trump. That doesn't make sense. She copied her policy standards from Biden's website. The metadata showed that the source code was Biden's website of his policies, and she just took them and copied them. It's a copy paste of Biden into a brand new presidency with a black woman face.
Indian black
Black
woman.
black Indian woman, black Indian communist woman. Let me get my facts straight.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, she shifted her positions so many times. And then she's like, well, I have the same values. It's like, okay, but you're saying one thing in the debate when you literally tweeted 2 days prior something completely different. It makes no sense at all. Like, you're literally just sitting there to please everybody. And this is one thing that I really don't like her. And I don't even have to like bring up politics, right? I don't like her as a person for this one issue. She says whatever she thinks she can say that'll please the most people. That's one thing I respect about Donald Trump. Donald Trump will say something even when he knows it'll make people upset. That's how typically you know if somebody's actually going to tell you the truth or not, is if they're not afraid to sit there and tell you something that they know is going to upset you, but they still believe in it. And when it comes to Kamala, she's a chameleon, right? We've already been through this in some of the previous episodes. She changes accents, she changes what she believes depending where she's at. She's completely untrustworthy.
I would also say that, one of the things that we talk about, oh, Trump should have hit her right then and there. The problem is this is what Kamala's strategy was. She could say whatever lies and garbage and non exact fact that she wanted to, and she could dance around the issue. The last thing she said was something that would be damaging to Trump if he didn't talk about it, or was a direct insult to him that got his goat. As long as she said something like that, then she knew that she could say whatever she wanted. And that's what she did. If you look at every single one of those exchanges, she'll say all this crap that you can eat, that Trump is probably going, okay, I'm going to easily talk about this and shut her up. But then at the last part, she talks about how he writes love letters to Kim Jong-un or something. And it's like, well, now I have to go talk about that because that's not true. He
That was
brought
such a
that talent
wild
in.
statement.
I know. And I was like, he did
He
what?
writes love letters to Kim Jong-un is such a
What does he
wild
talk about? His
statement.
big puffy cheeks that are filled with the blood of all of his commoners? Oh my gosh. Anyway, and that's one of the things. It's like, well, what do you do at that point? It's like Jared was saying earlier. It's a catch-22. It's a when did you stop beating your wife question. No matter how Trump answers it, it's going to be bad. But at the same time, he chose to refute the claim that she made last that he thought was more damaging, because then he would go into her policy. And because going to her policy was in the middle of his statement, they think that it's not going to connect. But I would disagree with that because of the internet.
Yeah, and the moderators did prod some of that. They asked him specifically about certain things. I do have one example where she was asked a question and she redirected by targeting Trump. When she was asked why their administration waited until just before the election to finally take action on the border, and would Harris do anything different than Biden? And she just talked about how she prosecuted transnational gangs, she supported a border bill, doesn't really answer the question of what she would do different, why they waited so long. And then she redirected and said, and I invite you to attend one of Trump's rallies. And she attacks the fact that, or a made up fact, probably, that people are leaving Trump's rallies. And that set Trump off. And instead of
Oh yeah.
like slamming her over immigration, he had to defend his rallies first. I was
And you
watching the
don't
debate and
mess with Trump over his rallies.
Well, that's
I
one
was
thing that
watching the
Especially
debate
after
and
this
I'm like,
last year.
no, there's the red herring. Stay on the track.
Yeah.
Nail comp. But
the one
unfortunately, Trump was very easy to
I
lead him
think
astray.
I think the
And that's one of
reason
the things that
I think the reason why Trump is so adamant about that is because over the past 2 months, there have been 3 people that have fainted from just standing in the heat from his rallies because they want to stay there. And Trump takes pride in that fact. Because he knows that he respects people's time, and when people's time isn't respected, he's fine with them leaving. But when they don't leave and they choose to hear him, and she attacks them, she attacks that, he feels like they're attacking them, not him. And that's why I think he's so adamant about that. I don't think it's something petty like, oh, well, my rallies are bigger than yours. I think he's more of like, there are people, and these people are what show the change. The amount of people shows the change that they want. The length that they will stand inside of the rally just to hear me talk shows the change, that they want change in this country. And the fact that she's hitting him on that made him very angry, because it's like, so you're going to hit me on my rallies that the people that I respect and are trying to win this race for go to. And that's why I think he jumped off at her. Now, should he have? No. He should have bit his tongue and hit her on the issue. I agree. But I don't just write it off as, oh, he's so prideful, he just had to talk about the rallies.
No, I definitely think, well, not only that, but think about the fact that unfortunately during the assassination attempt, he had people at his rallies that were killed. Corey Comparator for one of them, right? You don't mess with him about his rallies because he's had an actual tragedy happen. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning, though, about how it just seems like they were really going after him for everything. I mean, the comments were goading towards him. They were insulting him, doing things purposefully to take him off edge. Now, I'm not saying that I could have done any better, but Trump did lose his cool on some things, and I do think he should have tried to act a little bit more mature on some of the points. But again, some of the stuff that they were saying is just so outrageous. How do you expect him to logically keep his cool when they come out and say the stuff that they were saying? Like, you can't. They're sitting there insulting his rallies. They're sitting there insulting things that he's done. They're lying about him, saying that, oh, he supports this, he said this, when he hasn't. Things have been debunked. And then they're cutting him off when he gives his answers. Trump did good for the situation that he was put in, I think. But I do think that a lot of people were, like Jared said, a lot of people were slightly disappointed in the fact that he did let them goat him just a little bit, right? And that's a sad reality. But at the same time, he did a great job for the hand that he was dealt, in my opinion.
So, as a final recap of the debate, I'd like to get your opinions on what you thought were a couple standout moments that are internet clip ready. Dale, we'll start with you.
So I think one of the parts that was, obviously, for clip ready, obviously everyone knows the part where he goes, I'm speaking now." Does that sound familiar? And gave her the side eye. It was very funny.
That was so
That made
funny.
me
The little
laugh.
side eye, the
Dude,
little side eye got me. That's probably the most clippable part of the
yeah.
entire thing, in my opinion.
I would also say that when he brought up that her father was is a Marxist professor, and she made a face. She put her hand on her chin and propped her elbow on her hand to try to seem distinguished, but it was completely out of place because of the way they were standing. If she was on a desk, that would make sense. And I think that, along with a lot of her facial reactions to some of the things that he says, where she's just shaking her head at an actual truth that everyone knows. Like, for
I
instance,
think too what's important about that is the fact that Trump does not view her as a complete idiot. Trump was even, I don't want to say praising, but he was acknowledging the fact that her dad did educate her on Marxism, and she's not a complete fool when it comes to it. She knows what she is. She knows she's a Marxist, and she knows what Marxism is. And that's an important part that Trump was actually bringing out when he was talking about that as well, is the acknowledgement of, hey, she's not just some bumbling idiot. She is a Marxist, and she knows what she's doing for the economy.
I think also the point where he pointed at her and he said, "We should leave this debate right now. I will leave this debate with you. We will walk out together, and you go to Washington and you wake up the president and fix the issues that you're talking about fixing."
That was a good moment.
I think he did that twice, and I think that was a really good clippable moment. And the other one that I think that was a very clippable moment was when President Trump hammered on Afghanistan in two aspects. The first one was obviously the story after she tried to hit him on Camp David. I think they're gonna clip her talking about how he met with the Taliban at Camp David, and then they're gonna show the second part, which is Trump explaining exactly what happened because he went into detail about the story, and the way he tells the story is great. So I think that's very
Oh,
clippable.
yeah. The Camp David thing is absolutely amazing too, because what Trump literally did when he went there was, hey, bud, here's your house. Any more of my guys get hurt, it's just going to be a crater.
So there's that, and then he also said, "You left behind $85 billion of big, beautiful military equipment," and I think that's very clippable as well.
Aaron, do you have any other highlight moments that you want to bring up?
Yeah, so for clippable moments, I don't think necessarily that they have to be Trump highs either. I think a clippable moment would be the moderators getting on to him. Oh, that's already been debunked. There's not Haitian people eating people's pets. And then I think you could clip directly over to like articles and police reports of people eating, people's pets. Like I think that is extremely clippable. And like all the things that they quote unquote tried to fact check him on that are actually correct, every single one of those is
It's
clippable
especially
because you
the
can pull that audio of them saying no and then go immediately to like a source that shows that it's true.
especially when Trump fact checked the moderator about the FBI report and the fake job report.
Oh yeah, with the 818,000 jobs that weren't there because the
They lied.
Bureau of Labor Statistics have been over
Estimating.
counting.
I think those were the couple moments that stood out to me. What about you, Jared?
So I think one of the best clippable moments was definitely when he turned the abortion issue against Kamala, and he was forcing her to actually respond, saying, does she support abortion in the 7th, in the 8th, in the 9th month, even after birth? And Harris would not answer. Harris was asked if she supported any restrictions on abortion by the moderator. Her answer was, I support Roe v. Wade. She didn't say that she supported any restrictions. And with that, Trump just demolished her and proved she's a liberal and she is so far left, she doesn't care for any restrictions on abortion.
Right, because he said
Probably
Roe
another.
v. Wade allowed abortions up to the 8th, ninth
Mhm.
month. It's very good.
Probably another one was when Kamala Harris was attacking him over stuff, calling for the execution of the five young black and Hispanic boys that were convicted of rape. And he says, you have to dig stuff up from 40 years ago to attack me. I think that was that sent a message. He said, there's nothing now. Like Trump, everything that you know about Trump is already out there.
Oh yeah. And not only that, but yeah, they got to go back 40 years, but they loved him 40 years ago too. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Like people are so like, "Oh, Trump is this evil bad guy." And I'm like, "Do y'all not understand that like these people loved him until he decided he was going to become a Republican and run as president? They absolutely adored him. He's got pictures with all these things. There's many times where he's sitting there, he's like, "These people are yelling and screaming and, defaming me, and these were my friends." Like these are people that he had friendships with for a long time, and they're treating him like this. But it just goes to show, how these people are. I one that's happened in the news like the last day is Dick Cheney, right? Media, the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Dick Cheney's a war criminal, right? They hate Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney 2024 endorses Kamala Harris. They're like, "Oh, Dick Cheney's now a good guy." Actually, we
Yeah.
love Dick Cheney. Like the immediate switch, it's like, wait, what? I've grown up my entire life hearing that you guys hate him, and then he goes, "Kamala's cool," and they're like, "Whoa!" And then another big one is like Russia, right? The president of Russia, whoever he says he's going for, if he had said Trump, they would have gone all over. But you're not hearing a lot about it right now.
Oh
But
yeah, they
Putin came out
completely
and
just
said,
ignored the fact that
"Yeah,
Trump said that Putin endorsed Kamala, and they
yeah,
just
well,
glossed
Trump,
over that.
yeah,
That is also a
yeah,
clippable moment.
Putin did. Putin endorsed Kamala as his
Yeah,
chosen candidate because he knows she won't do anything and he'll let him do whatever he wants.
Oh no,
It's
I
there's one more.
absolute insanity.
There's one more really good clippable moment. You ready? When
yeah.
Trump goes, "You were sent to negotiate peace between Zelensky and Putin, and 3 days after you left, Putin invaded." That's that,
Oh
and
yeah,
that was huge.
it shows just how weak she is as
Incompetent she
a
is.
leader. You do not want her as a foreign leader or
And
as a
then
leader for your, foreign diplomacy.
Well,
That's
think
I think
crazy.
think
I
about it
think
as a
that
last. Sorry.
what I would say is the last clippable moment, like obviously there's Trump hammering on his closing statement of like, why hasn't she done it? She's been there for the last 3.5 years. I think my last clippable moment is actually from Kamala's closing statement. She ended her closing statement of saying the American public deserves a president that cares about you and asks if you're okay. Like she said, like as a prosecutor, she didn't ask if her clients were Republican or Democrat. She was like, "Are you okay?" And I think that's the perfect Donald Trump ad. Are you okay? No, we are not okay. We're suffering under inflation. We're suffering under migrant crime. The job market is suffering. There's wars breaking out all over the world because the current administration is so awful. They're incompetent. They're putting Americans in danger. We are not okay. And that is Trump's ad.
Yeah. And it goes back to, as I said earlier, the undecided voters panel for Pennsylvania. I was okay under Trump. I'm not under Kamala and Biden. And I'm not sure I'm willing to take the risk to see if Kamala can fix it. They're not okay right now, but they were okay during Trump. And that's huge. And people aren't these dumb idiots that the news thinks they are. People are aware. They know what's going on, and I think we're really going to see a reflection of that in the votes. I mean, let's look at the polling that's happening on CNN and stuff, right? They have, oh, Harris is up 3% over Trump. Yeah, she's up 3% over Trump in a what's it called? In a polling base that was 70% Democrat. That's insane. Do you understand how intense that is? The fact that she's only up like 2 or 3% in a poll that was taken with 70% of what should be her followers and supporters. That's very reflective of what's happening right now in the nation, because even Democrats are sitting here going, hold up, this is kind of crazy. I mean, RFK and the other lady, I always feel bad, I forget her name, all of them sitting there and endorsing her or endorsing Trump and falling away from their own party. Like, this is big stuff, and people are noticing. I think the news is going to continue to scream what they want to. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. The news are going to continue to scream what they want, but the American people are not stupid. And I think we're going to see this election, how many people are actually aware of what's going on.
I think one of the most damaging reports that came out before this debate is a report, Biden's vacation time astonishes Americans, as the president took 532 leaves during his 1,326 days in office.
Dang.
Biden has almost
and weren't they going
spent
after Trump for just going and golfing? This guy took like straight up vacations.
almost 2 years.
I'm looking at this article that you just linked. That is insane.
Almost 2 years of his presidency.
He's been on vacation.
He hasn't
Must
been
be
there.
nice.
So think about it. Who's been in charge? And you could make the case that Kamala Harris has been in charge for half of this term. So I think that's something that you can look at too.
Yeah. Well, overall, this entire debate was a fiasco, in my opinion. I think it was really good for showing a lot of people who kind of, it was in the back burner of their mind that the media was biased. This really showed a lot of people how biased they were. It was a 3v1 debate. I think Trump should have done some things better, but he did a good job. I think he was him. And that's where we come back to my opinion. I think this entire thing has been real versus fake. Trump was Trump. There was nothing that happened that didn't make me go, oh, that wasn't Trump. Everything that happened, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a Trump response. Oh, yeah, that's Trump. I know who I'm voting for when I hear Trump and when I see Trump. Kamala was all fake. It was, oh, she lied about that. Oh, she lied about that. Oh, she changed her position. Oh, she lied about changing her position. Oh, that's crazy considering she tweeted that 2 days ago. Oh, everything she's doing seems like it's super scripted. It was all fake. And that's what this debate was to me. It really kind of showed me, even more how desperate they are to get her out. They'll basically, babysit and monitor her for an entire presidential debate, which is insane. She had handlers. I can't understand how we've gotten to this point as our nation. We can't even sit down and have a proper presidential debate anymore. But hopefully we'll see another. I would really like to see another one. I would like to see one where, they sit down and we don't have favoritism. I don't want Republican favoritism. I don't want Democratic favoritism. I want somebody who's going to respect both candidates as the same. I want them to have the exact same questions, and then I want to hear them answer, because I, as an American, want to hear what the people who are running to be my president are going to do for my nation, so that I know how to make the most educated choice. With this debate and our presidential choices being real versus fake, When it comes to something more important than politics, something that we can trust in that is real, is Jesus Christ. He is the real of all real. You don't have to worry about him being fake or lying or changing his position. The Bible says that he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus Christ loves you. God loves you so much that he sent his son Jesus to die on the cross for you, that you may gain eternal life, so that you don't have to spend eternal separation from God in hell. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." You know, in this political season where we're trying to figure out which candidate's telling the truth, which candidate has the best ideas, one thing that we can stay firm in is the promise of God and the gift of God. Because God does not lie, God does not change. He won't change his mind about you. He won't change his mind about anything, because God is truth. And as I said earlier, God is always the same. God says that if you humble yourself, if you will admit that you're a sinner, if you will pray for the repentance of your sins and accept Christ as your Savior, then you will be saved. And that's one thing that will always remain the same and will always remain true, because God is real. And I don't just mean he exists. I mean, God is real in who he is. His word is truth, and his word stands forever. And you can have that confidence. I would ask you today that if you're not sure that you would go to heaven, that you would seek somebody, go to a church, comment down below. We would be happy to help you or guide you. Grab the Bible, read the book of John. The book of John is one of the best books in the Bible for understanding the deity of Christ and God coming down in the flesh of man to sacrifice himself so that he could be the perfect propitiation for our sins, so that we could avoid going to hell, so that God could reunite with his creation.
Thank you for listening to today's episode, and we hope to see you again next time.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful evening.
Goodbye.